Let's get to the Cowboys Report on today's show. That is Cowboys winners and losers from the 2024 NFL Draft. This is not the picks themselves, but how the picks impact the rest of the roster. As a reminder, recap, etc., Tyler Guyton was the Cowboys' first-round pick after a trade down. Marshawn Nealon in round 2. Cooper Beebe in round 3. Maurice Liufau in the 3rd round as well. Kalen Carson in the 5th. Ryan Flournoy in the 6th. Nathan Thomas and Justin Rogers after a heavy trench draft, rounding things out in the 7th round in the 2024 NFL Draft. Did you guys like our NFL Draft coverage? If you did, then like the video. We were live for every pick, sometimes simulcast, sometimes just me. Pick reactions on pretty much all of them. Like the video if you haven't already. So first up on the winners side, all the different running backs, right? This includes Ezekiel Elliott, who did resign. The Cowboys did not draft a running back this year. Their only addition in the quote-unquote draft process was Nate Pete, who was a UDFA out of Missouri, who was a backup for the Tigers, who might have really good speed. I've seen different numbers on his pro day testing, massively different numbers. The Beast had him in the 4.5s. Gelk had him sub 4.4. I don't know what's going on there. We'll see what happens in the preseason. He's also probably not someone who's going to be a key piece for you. So it's Ezekiel Elliott, Rico Dowdle, Deuce Vaughn, Royce Freeman, Malik Davis, fullback, running back, hybrid Hunter Lipke, and Snoop Connor. So there's at least 5 or 6 of those guys who are thinking, not only could I maybe be on this team, I might have a chance of being the best back on this football team. And maybe I can emerge as a key piece. The stats last year with Royce Freeman kind of bouncing around teams as well. 77 for 319. Deuce Vaughn was kind of, most of his touches came as the game is over, grind out the clock, which is not how you should be using Deuce Vaughn. Rico Dowdle, I thought should have had more opportunity. Ezekiel Elliott in a not good situation in New England passing game-wise. I think their run blocking wasn't that big of a problem, though. Wasn't very efficient and not very many big plays, but he's the most proven by a massive margin on this team. And now he is like the, by default, maybe, or maybe it's Rico, I think it should be, the RB1. He's getting paid the most, by the way. Elliott's making about double, potentially, what Dowdle is this year. Who is RB1 for this team? EE for Ezekiel Elliott, RD for Rico Dowdle, RF for Royce Freeman, or Small for Deuce Vaughn. If it's somebody else, by the way, comment that at the pinned comment of today's show, especially if the ad comes here on YouTube. On to the loser's side. First up, it is indeed Brock Hoffman. Probably felt good after round 1, round 2, and then round 3, it kind of changed drastically. Hoffman is now no longer set to likely start at center. If the Cowboys hadn't drafted Cooper Beebe in the 3rd round, if they had maybe taken somebody on day 3, maybe it would have been a competition. And there will be competition here, but I fully expect Cooper Beebe to be the player the Cowboys want to win that starting job. And although this, especially the offensive line coach, really believes in Brock Hoffman, kind of seems like he's now more in line to be your lineman 6 or 7 or 8, whatever. I think he makes the team, but ends up being relegated to a backup role as opposed to potentially fighting for a starting spot. I will put Jalen Tolbert, and maybe a few others, if you want to argue like a Kevontae Turpin or something, into the winners category. Tolbert, the reason being, is the favorite to be wide receiver 3. Yes, they drafted Ryan Flournoy. That was a 6th-round pick out of SEMO. That's not exactly a powerhouse school. There's a real chance it's a red shirt year for Flournoy, which makes sense as a 6th-round pick. So that leaves Lamb, Cooks, Tolbert, Kevontae Turpin maybe get some more use. Call him a winner too if you want. They didn't really add any return men. Jalen Brooks and Flournoy, Cropper, Bryant. Would anyone be surprised if Tolbert was the wide receiver 3 to begin week 1? I would not. The production has not been there. At times, feels like the trust hasn't been there necessarily either. But then again, the target should go to Lamb and then Cooks and then Ferguson. With the way this supporting cast is built out, you don't need Tolbert to be the number 3 option. but you need him to be a guy that doesn't make a mistake. And if defenses can take away Lamb and Ferguson and force the other reads, Tolbert's in the right spot at the right time, makes the catch, and he gets open. He is being counted on to take a step forward in year 3. Today's show is made possible by PrizePicks. Go to prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. The NBA playoffs are underway, and you can get in on the action over at PrizePicks. It's daily fantasy made easy. You pick more, you pick less. It really is that simple and that easy. You can win up to 100 times your money with PrizePicks. I always advise the flex play outside of you taking advantage of like one of the Goblin projections or whatever. I do have NBA Friday playoff PrizePicks here. Franz Wagner, I'm going to go under 19.5 points there. He has not hit that figure very consistently. As great as Luka has been, and I think the Mavs do close out the series on Friday, 52.5 points, rebounds, and assists has not been hit by Luka in this series. So I'm taking the less than again. Derek Jones, meanwhile, has kind of consistently put up some double-digit figures. So I'm going to go more than on his PrizePicks as well. Again, folks, that's prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. Link will be in the comments section and the description of today's show. Next up on the loser's side, that is Damone Clark, who I could see him being linebacker 4 on this team to begin week 1. Eric Hendricks knows the Mike Zimmer defense. He is your veteran football player. It's obviously a at least partially shuffled defensive coaching staff. I think this defensive staff was, at least the one last year, was devastated when DeMarvion Overshown went down. They were convinced he was going to be their best linebacker. They thought he was going to have a massive season. Now, he's coming off the ACL. We'll see if the return to play equates to return to performance, but they're excited about him. Cowboys drafted Maurice Leafau in the 3rd round. This team and this staff was very high on him, even more so than other teams. I think that this was probably the team that loved him the most. Not like somebody just got sniped by him. I think he was going to last a little bit longer. This team loves him. That might make Damone Clark linebacker 4, and I think could be a sneaky trade piece if he doesn't impress Mike Zimmer and Paul Guenther this upcoming offseason and preseason. I'm not out on Damone Clark, but I am nervous about him. So do you still believe in Clark? Y for yes, N for no? Sound off in the comments. Next up on my winners and losers, I'm going to go with Chauncey Golston. This defensive tackle room for Dallas is in dire need of help. They don't have enough right now. At this moment, it's Oso Odighizuwa as like your 3 technique. You have 2 1 techniques in Mozzie Smith and Justin Rogers. And I think Rogers could be a fun piece for you as just a guy that just, like the new Hankins, basically. You don't have any other pass rushing defensive tackle depth. It's Denzel Daxon, who had 0 sacks in college. He's not a real threat. So for now, by default, Chauncey Golston is your next best backup behind Oso Odighizuwa, 1 injury away from starting on the interior, I think. Now, he's been kind of put in a weird spot. Is he a DE? Is he a DT? That's always made things kind of tough on him. But I think he'll be a defensive tackle, would be my guess for Dallas. And as a young player, final year of his deal, Cowboys need him to step up. I think the answer is yes to this question, but you guys can sound off as well. Do the Cowboys need another defensive tackle? They signed only 1 UDFA, making me wonder if they're going to add a veteran there. 1 for yes, 0 for no. Nahshon Wright is on the loser side of things here. I think the draft pick of Kalen Carson is a direct thing of okay, and he might not make this 53-man roster because Diggs, Bland, Lewis, and Carson are going to make it. Carson's a lock unless he is just the worst football player ever. That's how this always operates, right? And I think they take Eric Scott right now over Nahshon Wright, maybe Israel Mukuamu. I think Nahshon Wright, a Dan Quinn preference pick there, is trending towards being as the odd man out of this Cowboys team. He hasn't played much defense the past 2 years. When they had all those injuries, not last year, but the year before, they tried Nahshon Wright, and he still got benched. Can I get a 7th for him? I would greatly appreciate that. But I don't know if he's going to make this team in the end. Another winner, yes, indeed, it is Trey Lance. Although stock back down because he's going to wear number 19 now, and that is a terrible vibe fit for Trey Lance. That is not a good number for Lance. The reason why I put him on the loser side, Dallas didn't add a running back. Didn't do it. Or a quarterback, excuse me. They didn't add a quarterback. My bad. They also didn't add a running back. Which means they're going to give all of those young player reps to Trey Lance. And he is still going to get a chance to prove he is quarterback 2 and more than just the latest in a long line of early round quarterback busts. He is going to get a chance. And this is why Dallas traded for him, was for this preseason. He is going to get all of those preseason reps. He'll get all the chances to show the young talent. It'll actually make the preseason a little bit more intriguing because there's a young quarterback to watch now in the way there hasn't been for several seasons, outside of Ben DiNucci, but there was the whole COVID, so that kind of impacted him there. Yeah, they declined the 5th-year option. Everyone knew it was going to happen. That's not even a surprise. That was the plan all along. No quarterback added. I bet they add somebody for rookie minicamp, though, just to be a camp arm for that. But beyond that, Lance will get a chance to show what he can do in the preseason. So are you a die-hard Cowboys fan? Will you watch our preseason watch parties? If you plan on it, then sub right now. The last side of the losers is some of those depth offensive linemen. You've got 6 to 7, I'd say, roster locks. Tyler Guyton, Tyler Smith, Cooper Beebe, Zach Martin, Terrence Steele. I think Bass and Hoffman, with having played snaps last year and entering the draft, were both starters for this team. I think those guys are locked in as your 6th and 7th offensive linemen. That leaves up to 3 spots for these 5 guys, assuming Earl Bostic and Dakota Shepley don't make the roster. It's Nathan Thomas, a 7th-round pick, for a team that does everything possible to put their draft picks on their roster for year 1. Awesome Richards, Matt Waletzko. Chuma Adoga's money does not guarantee him a roster spot, by the way, but be your favorite, I think, unless one of the other guys can impress as a swing tackle, and Josh Ball. So 2 of those guys, barring injury at minimum, are going to be cut. 7th-round pick, 5th-round pick, I think 5th-round pick, veteran, 4th-round pick. Now, Josh Ball's probably at the bottom of that totem pole. That still leaves somebody else getting cut barring injury. Maybe injuries happen. This kind of solves your dilemma on its own. But adding Nathan Thomas in the 7th round, drafting 2 linemen top 75, some guy's going to get cut.